About referees. Once again, there's a lot of information on the website and sometimes that works against you. But basically I wanted to have referees that were people that certainly had supervised me or were currently supervising me. I wanted referees that working at the same level as myself, but I also wanted beginning teachers and other staff members that I had supported in my role. So the documentation says a minimum of 3 referees, and I'm quite sure that if we asked everybody in the room how many referees you're planning to have, we would have quite a range. And as I said before, this is one of the difficulties in the process. There are no maximums set. So you don't know, in order to put in, remember, a high quality application, you don't know if that means 4 or 5 or 15 or 20. I had 10. Now, I can't tell you if that's a good number or not, but that's the number that I chose. And I did ask some of my referees to comment on a number of standards. So some of my referees only commented on 1 standard, and other referees commented on a number of standards. So the process is that you select your referees. The referees need an accreditation number with the Institute. And for most of the referees that I worked with, they had no idea of this process either. And I'll talk about that again in a moment. You need to then go online and list the referees using their Institute number. So they get back to you, you say, I'd really like you to write a report, blah, 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 blah. This is kind of what it's about. You need an Institute number, and you help them get the Institute number. They let you know what that is. And then you get online and you list the referees and you nominate the standards that they are going to comment on. So in a sense, you're setting up your application online to receive their reports. And then you need to let them know that that job's been done and that they now can log in and complete the online report. It's interesting when I look at how long the report is, every time I find somewhere where I've written how long the report is, I've got 50 words on one document. Somewhere else I told somebody 150, and this one he says 200, but I've seen elsewhere where I've said that you can write up to 300, so even that's a little bit uncertain. It does say on the website 50 words, and I know a number of my referees read that and wrote their reports in 50 words. But other referees didn't, and they wrote a lot. Just bear in mind, for all of this, someone has to read it at the other end. And that's an issue that's becoming more obvious, I guess, as these applications land on regional directors' desks. So there is a question there as to what you tell your referees. But in fact, all they need to do is confirm your claim around a particular standard. So it's not where they're needing to necessarily write a whole lot about how wonderful you are. It's more about, it's a confirmation, yes, this particular person, you know, John Black, he has met this, I have witnessed John meeting this standard by such and such, such and such, such and such. It really is about them confirming what you're claiming. And then as an applicant, then you're going to go online and see if that report's there. And one thing, I think it might be on the next slide, yes, I'll come back to that. So as I said, I chose 10 referees. I think originally I had 11 or 12, but then there were some difficulties with people being overseas and on leave, and the funny old thing, they've got other things to do other than write reports for me on my accreditation application. So I ended up with 10. This is critical. I underestimated the time required to have the referee's report. I think in my head I kind of thought that it was more about me getting my documentation together, and then at the end I'll get the observer to come in, I'll get my referees to do their bit, and that'll be it done. When in fact I found that it really required a lot more time around the referees. So certainly asking them to be a referee for you is, you know, that doesn't take a lot of time. But the process then of having them obtain an Institute number and actually keeping track of all your referees, where they're all up to in this process. That's what I found quite difficult. And it didn't scan on this, on this lovely, wonderful piece of paper. But I lost track at one point as to whether I had reminded a referee that they needed to get an institute number or not. Do you know what I mean? So it's one thing to be hassling somebody and chasing up somebody, but you really need to keep track of when you've asked them to be a referee, when you've sent them the information on how to get their institute number, when you've harassed them again and said, oh look, I'm sorry to bother you, but have you been able to get your institute number yet, etc., etc. Because remember we said it's hard to come back to, so it's not something, it takes you a while to get your head around where you're up to again. Having said that, all my referees, as yours will be, were certainly very, very happy to participate. And so it's not that they don't value the process and they don't value what you're doing, it's just that often you're working with people who haven't had any experience in this process yet. And so it's difficult for sometimes to keep track of what the requirements are. Okay, so at this stage, I worked all my referees through the process except the boss. And that was for a number of reasons, but the main reason was, and he kept saying, oh, when am I going to do mine? When am I going to do mine? And I said, not yet, because I was saving the boss over here for right at the end if I felt that I had other standards that I wanted to top up, if you like. So I'm going to walk you through the referee process that I undertook, which was the same for my principal, but that was done at a later stage. Okay, so you need to contact the referees on a number of occasions. So the first one is an email is just a request. So it really is just outlining the big picture, if you like, and it's about a little bit of information on the process and what you need to, what you are undertaking, what you need to do. Now, I'm going to show you what these are. I just had them as a Word document, and when I wanted to email a referee, I just went in, copy and pasted and dumped it into the email. I didn't do that in the beginning. I got a bit, smarter in the end. So this is the first email that I sent to my referees, and it really just says that the teaching standards have 4 levels and that I was looking at accreditation to one of the 2 voluntary levels. It really just outlines the bare bones about the 46 standards and the role of the referee. A little bit about what the referee has to do, and then a sample of the report that the referee writes, which is online. So it really was quite basic information, because most of your referees you really just want them to read that, or obviously you might speak to them over the phone about it, and just to fill them in on what the process is really. Oops. Let me just cancel that. I'm going to minimise that. Okay, so then the second email, because I just felt it was a bit presumptuous to send the form on how to get your institute number before I'd actually received a yes, I'd like to write a report for you. You might not feel that, but I did. So this is the second referee email, and it goes through the process of what they need to do. Basically, attached is a form completed by the referee, forwarded to the institute. The institute will register your details. The referee then contacts the applicant, etc., etc., etc. The Institute has said that in the future this process will be online, so then your referees will just be able to go on and basically create an account themselves. But at this stage it was certainly manual, and I think that's still the case at this point. Can you go online now? Yeah, okay, take that back. Okay, and then I had a very polite little reminder email just in case I needed to send that. And at that point then I uploaded the referee details and allocated the standards. Please make sure you note and keep track of your referees' institute numbers because they will lose them and then ask you what their institute number is. And then the last email is to notify them when the online application is ready, and that's what that email covers. Now, for most of my referees, that's basically all the information I gave them. The last email listed the standard that I was asking them to comment on. And in this case here, I've said, I thought you might be able to use da-da-da-da-da-da-da in the work that we've done to address this standard. This one's a little more detailed than that because this was to the school education director. And I wanted to make it clear to Roger exactly what he needed to do and the work that he might choose to comment on. So this one's just a little bit more detailed than the ones that I sent most of my referees, and in hindsight I probably should have sent them all this one, but I didn't really get it together until towards the end. But I think it is useful to help the referees out. I mean, you know the work that you've done that you're wanting them to use, so let's cut to the chase and help them out a little bit there because you know the standards well and you know the work that you believe meets that particular standard.